Sweet. Thanks, Mike. And hey, everyone, it's great to be here again. It's been a long time since last time. It's been a whole year. Can you believe it? And I'm really excited to be here again. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about business and technology. So I'm a software developer by trade, and I also run a couple of businesses. So I like to bring a unique perspective. And I'm hoping today that through this talk, I will help educate some of you in the audience who are looking to either create your own business or are a CTO or a developer who has a big impact in their company, whether it's a startup or an enterprise company. It does not matter, right? The principles are the same. So let's dive right into it. So what we're going to be talking about is a case study, a real case study, where for one of my companies called Startup Wars, right, where we used Ionic and Phaser to make a simulation game for entrepreneurs, okay? And the case study, the purpose of it is to tell everyone or show everyone how we both succeeded, then failed miserably, and then succeeded again, thanks in large part to the technology stack that we chose, the way we architected it, and Ionic framework, which is really awesome. So let's dive in here. So a little bit about me. As Mike said, I am the founder of OpenForge. OpenForge, we've been building mobile applications for a number of years now. We have built applications all across the world, all across the country. This is our team. We've been with Ionic actually since beta. We've been partners with Ionic, so it's been a really awesome adventure. And we actually don't build mobile apps with any other technology. We use Angular, React, Vue under the hood. But in terms of framework, we've been Ionic for about 6 years now, which has been a lot of fun. And we built a lot of really cool applications, right? So we're coming to this from an experience standpoint. Now, when me and my team, when the team was growing, we said to ourselves, okay, well, we want to start building out some of our own applications as well, some of our own products. And we said, okay, well, that's great, but what kind of product are we going to build? And I'm sure some of you in the audience have the exact same problem or mentality. This is my alarm. And if you guys do have that, then you'll notice that you have to solve a problem first, right? So we were looking around and we were trying to think what problem could we solve with a product. And we realized that we were giving a lot of mentorship and advice to startup founders, right? And we were receiving it as well from us as a company. But even when we would give advice or advice was given to us, it's different to hear something than to experience it, right? And we know this as software developers because if we watch someone do it, right? Well, it's great, we get the idea, but it's not the same as actually doing it ourselves, right? And same thing is in entrepreneurship. So we found that founders had no way to safely experience entrepreneurship. So there's no way to try it before they bought it, right? And from there, we said, okay, we can build an entrepreneurship simulation platform. So we can teach future entrepreneurs to have their own business through a fun gamified experience. And since we are Ionic experts, we said, okay, well, this would be great as a mobile application and as a tablet, right? So that's where we started, and that's how we wanted to go to market. And so we said, okay, great. Now we need to choose a technology. We need to talk about the architecture, talk about the technology, and what are the pros and cons. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are doing the same thing, right? When you are evaluating different technologies to use. As a mobile application studio, OpenForge, the team, we did not have skills in Unity or let's say Corona SDK or any of the other game development platforms that are out there. We evaluated them. We took a look at what the learning curve might be, and we said, you know what? Let's see if there's some sort of platform or technology that we are actually good at, right? That can be used to use games. So we found Phaser.js, right? Or it's Phaser.io now. And we evaluated it, and it's great because we can use TypeScript, right? And the entire engine is built for gaming, for web gaming specifically. And it allowed us to combine that with our knowledge of Ionic, right? And say, okay, well, we can combine these two in order to make a mobile app, a mobile game, right? Using technologies that we already know, and using the Ionic framework, for certain advantages. We use Firebase behind the scenes in case anyone is, interested, and I'll go a little bit deeper into the architecture later. I just want to kind of show you guys big picture right now so you can understand the why, right? And then we'll go into what happened, which is a fun story. So you guys might be wondering why or how we fit Ionic and Phaser together. This little example over here, and for this purpose of this talk, the application itself is not super important, but we can see here that this page is an Ionic page, right? Each page that was shown, it was basically input fields, right? So very, very easy to make with Ionic framework because it's a business application. But then when we get to this piece, right, this is the actual game part, right? And this would be very, very difficult to do in Ionic, right? So that's how we kind of mixed and matched the two different architectures together to utilize the advantages of both of them, right? And not any of the disadvantages. So it was pretty neat. So if we talk about the architecture here, and let me pull this up so we can make this a little bit bigger because I had this on my other computer and I just got to open it on this one, which will only take a second. Share drive, Startup Wars, architecture, and boom. So if we take a look at the architecture here, just from a high level, right? When we're building out a game, any game really, you have a game engine, which is kind of the overall driver, right? And then we wanted to see how can we go to market as fast as possible, okay? So if we were building everything in Phaser, we would not have been able to do that, right? Because Phaser is a game engine, has a lot of complexity, has a lot of different things you can do, right? But it's really good for the graphic side, the asset side, right? The animation side. Whereas Ionic is great for the business side, right? The business application layer. So what we did was we said, okay, let's create this loop where basically from the game engine, we go into Ionic, right? So all the pages that we can have in Ionic, we do. That includes our feature libraries, our system libraries, anything where the user is basically selecting different data, transferring data, translating it, like reading out different, like system information, anything like that is perfect for the Ionic piece, right? Just Ionic and Angular is what we use. And then from there, anytime we go into the actual Phaser piece, or the more advanced graphics and animations, we go into the Phaser engine, and the Phaser engine is the one that actually controls the asset loader, which preloads everything into memory. It controls the main scene, which is how Phaser actually controls a game scene, and then that handles the character assets, drop zones, animations, etc. Okay, so that's kind of like how we split it up, and we came into it saying, okay, well, this is great. This is a really cool architecture, get advantages for Ionic. We get advantages for Phaser. Let's do this. Let's start the project. So we started the grind, right? Our team last year, right? As of last year, we spent about 20,000 hours on the game itself and the platform and all the surrounding technologies around it. We were able to get a proof of concept in no time at all. We went to market with that, very limited proof of concept. It had great feedback, so then we, expanded it even further, and we invested, some significant time and money into this project. And this is very, really important because I can't emphasize, 20,000 hours. You guys can do the math on, what that expense is, right? What kind of investment we put into the company. And hey, we had great traction, right? We put 20,000 hours in, we built this product, all of a sudden people are using it. We get in front of professors, we get in front of universities, we think everything is going to be great, right? Because the students loved it. The students loved it. But then something happened. 95% of the students said, this is fantastic, great time, right? But about 5% couldn't use it at all. And we were trying our darndest to get to market, to respond to the student feedback and say, hey, what is, like, why, I don't understand why you can't download it or why you can't use it, right? It's just a regular Ionic app with a little bit of Phaser in it. What's going on? Turns out, and I heard a talk earlier that Mike had mentioned accessibility, right? Turns out that universities cannot control what type of phone their students have. There's more control from a laptop perspective. You have certain your requirements, in order to basically do your work, or you can use a computer lab. But from a personal phone or personal device, we were seeing that some folks had, very, very old phones, 6 years, 8 years old. Some folks had flip phones, whether it's personal choice or that's just what they could afford. But whatever the case was, there was 5% of the population of our test group of 1,000 students could not use it. And this posed a huge issue for us as a business, because we had just invested 20,000 hours into building a mobile application. And now the feedback from the professors, right, which used to be, yeah, this is great. Like, I've tried it, I love it, to now, hey, this is great, but we can't use it if all of our students can't use it. It has to be 100% of them, or we can't use it at all. And imagine what you would be feeling at that time, right? Our team, we got together. It was a frantic weekend, and we said, what do? We can't possibly support devices, 6+ years old, but like they need a way to actually play. Well, we got together, and within 2 days, we were able to figure out a solution. And I got to come back here to, again, the technology we chose, right? The technology we chose really came into play here with the solution. Because what we were able to do is we were able to take our mobile application, right? And since we used Ionic and Phaser, which are both web technologies, we were able to put up within 2 days a web version of it, right? And I know a lot of you who have already used Ionic, right? This is a capability, right? It's basically out of the box, web support as a PWA. For anyone who hasn't used it before, this is one of the main advantages. There is no way that we could have gone backwards 20,000 hours, right, and rebuilt everything in a different technology. Just no way. But because of the technology that we chose, we were able to. So we pivoted, we deployed it, quick and dirty to the web. It was basically just the same mobile experience, but it was web version now. So now everyone could play it, okay? From there, we were able to pivot even further, right? And the product has evolved into a web application, right? So we're not even trying to deploy to mobile anymore. We are really just deploying to web. And we're still using Ionic, and we're still using Phaser, right? So I like to say, and Mike, if you're still listening, I'm going to totally take this trademark. I'm just kidding. You guys can have it. That Ionic, it gave us the power to pivot, because it really did, right? We went from swearing and thinking that we were going to be mobile first and do everything as a mobile application, because that's what our user feedback said. Hey, this is really awesome. We would love to get mobile technology in front of our students. But then when we went to market and we got to practice, we couldn't do it. It wasn't feasible. So we're still an Ionic application, but now we're entirely web-based, which is a really, really cool, cool use case and cool case study. So when we talk about the, architecture and just conceptually, like how we pivoted, because if anyone is going through the same thing, or anyone is planning on going to market but thinking there might be an opportunity to go to launch a product as web, and you want to know how we structure this, our initial structure looked like this. On the left hand side, which was the mobile app, we had Ionic and Phaser. We were deploying through AppFlow, which made the process a lot easier. I'd highly recommend it. And then we had a separate web portal. So we use NX monorepo structure. And so we have a separate web application, which is basically just Angular and Bootstrap, right? And that's how we went to market initially. After the pivot, we condensed and we came into this structure. So now we moved everything into the web application. We're still using Ionic because we split all of our Ionic components, or in the features, we split those into feature libraries. And so now we're still using Ionic as a feature library. We're still using Phaser, right? And this is all under the web application, right? Which contains both the game and the portal now. So, that was one of the really, I guess, key benefits of using it. If anyone is interested, we do have, some videos available, which I'll actually talk about in a second, about creating a Phaser game and an Ionic game. But, the moral of the story here is a couple things, right? As technologists, as software developers, right, we have to have a voice at the table whenever our business is making business decisions, because the business decisions need to be based in part on the technology side. So if you are a developer or a CTO, right, and you're working on your product for your company, right, make sure that the founders, that the business analysts, that whoever it is, understands the long-term impacts of the technology that you choose. Right? It's very, very important for the business, right, and the longevity of your role and the success of yourself and the company. When you are deciding what type of technology stack to pick, how things interact with each other, so important to consider the what ifs, right? When you're choosing that architecture, we just do not know what's going to happen, and this ties in with the business needs. No business knows where they're going to be in 5 years or 10 years from now, right? Let alone 2 years, especially new businesses, because you have to pivot. You have to pivot very frequently. So picking a technology stack and a combination of technology stacks that allows you to pivot could make or break your company, right? So it's very, very important. And then I think last thing and most important thing is include accessibility considerations. We have to think about accessibility. It is becoming one of the most important things in the development community right now, is to evaluate, okay, how can we support, right, many different types of people, many different types of use cases, right? And how does that affect the technologies we use, right? So this affected us, at Startup Wars, right? And it's going to affect you as well. Maybe it's not today, maybe it's tomorrow, but it will. So just some quick resources, like I mentioned. If you guys are interested in how to actually create a game with Ionic and Phaser, we created a video about this. We basically just recreated Candy Crush using Ionic and Phaser. Really, really cool. We have some capacitor in there as well. So it's on our YouTube channel, just youtube.com/c/openforge. And yeah, you can check that out. I think it's called Building Mobile Games with Ionic Framework. That's what that video is called. We also have an Ionic meetup that we run, and there's links on there as well. So if you guys, have any topics that you want to see us, do, especially related to like game development and Ionic, please let us know. And then finally, right, we also have, for anyone who is interested in, testing out Startup Wars, if you're very curious to see how this actually works, or just entrepreneurship in general, feel free to sign up. We have a sign up form at bit.ly/Startup Wars. And that is my talk. I tried to make up some lost time since we were having some technical difficulties earlier, but yeah, thank you guys all very much, and it was great to be here.